Welcome back to the Ross Bolen podcast, otherwise known as RBP, presented by Bolen Media. I am your host, Ross Bolen, back again with your co-host, Chris Coulson, and today we are joined again by current Bolen Media marketing consultant, Jared Borislow. Y'all ever Uber to the wrong spot and not notice until you arrive?
I don't think I've ever done that.
I don't think I've ever done that either.
Yeah, I just did this. It was truly sad. I was focused on writing the show in the Uber and ended up 15 minutes south of the studio at the office unintentionally. I have turned into one of those mindless businessmen riding in the back of a cab or a rideshare, staring at their phone, unaware of anything occurring outside the vehicle. Like, sometimes I'll get out of an Uber and realize I didn't even know what the driver looked like. Like, I never even looked up.
You're going to end up like Jared from Silicon Valley, just like inside of a car being shipped to China.
Yes, that's what's going to happen. It's going to be my Tesla. I'm going to throw it in full self-driving, and it's going to take me to a crate and ship me off to another country.
You guys actually can't see it, but Ross has two Bluetooth devices, one in each ear, for two separate phones, just because he has so many business calls coming into his head.
I'm just doing tons of business.
And stonk.
And stonk. And
Mostly
coin.
stonk business.
A lot of mining. A lot going on over here. Today we're starting with the insane headline of today. We're going to open today's show in the intro. Can you believe this? With an insane headline.
Wow.
Wow.
It must be insane.
It is insane. Here it is from CNN. Customs agents in Cincinnati, that's in Ohio.
What?
Thank you.
Seized 44 pounds of cornflakes, that's a cereal, covered in cocaine, that's a narcotic, instead of sugar.
Sugar's also a narcotic, depending on who you talk to.
The unaltered version of that. Customs agents in Cincinnati seized 44 pounds of cornflakes covered in cocaine instead of sugar. What?
To be fair, I like the altered version better.
I liked it too. I liked my parentheses. U.S. Customs and Border Patrol seized a shipment of cereal from South America that was covered in cocaine instead of sugar. CBP officers in Cincinnati, Ohio, intercepted the package on February 13th, containing about 44 pounds of cocaine-coated cornflakes.
Okay, so immediate question is, I don't know a lot about cocaine, right? I don't know a lot about the distribution on that side of things, right?
Yeah. Well, you watched Blow, so you're sort of familiar.
Okay, true. But in Blow, they did not use cornflakes to ship out their cocaine.
They did not.
And I'm just curious, how do you separate said cocaine from said cornflakes post-shipment?
Look, we've seen lots of variations of this in television and film.
Correct.
Where, like, drug dealers find a way to, like, they put cocaine in the teddy bears. Or, like, they make something out of cocaine that then when it gets to its destination, they melt it down and it turns back into cocaine. Or, like, it has to be put in water and then that turns into, or whatever. There's, like, a whole bunch of different ways. But I've never seen them just be like, what if we got a ton of cereal or a product that contains a ton of sugar, and then instead of sugar, we just put all the blow in there? Surely no one will notice.
Well, I mean, I'm imagining a bright future in which you can both combine your late-night drunchies with a pick-me-up via cocaine-covered cornflakes.
The thing about this is great is that a dog named Bico, B-I-C-O, flagged the cereal shipment. Like, stuff like this comes down to one dog deciding whether or not to do his job. Just like, how did Bico feel on this day?
Yep.
Did he have allergies? Could he smell well?
I don't know if you guys remember this. Do you remember 2 nights ago when I was absolutely tweaking out on Twitch when we were playing?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I had eaten 2 bowls of cornflakes.
Oh, that's it.
Yep.
That's definitely what it was. That makes so much sense. You were flaked out.
Dude.
I was flaking.
Now that we're mentioning this, I've had a lot of trouble sleeping lately, and I tend to have a bowl of cereal right before bed.
Cornflakes?
I mean, I had Frosted Flakes the other day.
Basically the same thing.
Wait,
I
are they
also had
different?
Raisin Bran the other day. It doesn't specify which cornflakes we're dealing with here.
I'm
That's very
thinking
true.
Kellogg's, like, you know, like the ones with the little, like, chicken-looking thing on them.
Probably. I'm sure that the company doesn't want to be recognized.
Yeah, probably.
Because, you know, their sugar had, or their cereal had cocaine in it instead of sugar.
Sugar is a drug, though. Let's all remember this.
Sugar, very bad.
And also, well, I don't know if that take's actually accurate. As a cereal company, I would like the drug dealers to know that my cornflake is strong enough to withhold the dissolving nature of cocaine. Because as we all know, cocaine is a very destructive drug to all our innards. So if you have a cornflake strong enough to hold that cocaine and keep it safe all the way from another country into this great nation of the United States of America,
You
I
think
would wanna put
cocaine is
that out
like
there.
acid?
Yeah, what?
it does. It dissolves. That's why people get fucking deviated septums and it like drips in your stomach and dissolves.
That's from snorting rock.
No. I promise you. Look it up. Cocaine is a dissolved. I don't know what the actual term is
A
for
solvent?
it. Solvent.
I don't know. I'm making up
That's
words.
definitely the
I
wrong
think
term.
no?
But
Okay.
okay, so here's a
Sounds
question.
right.
So think about this. Let's say you make your bowl of cocaine cornflakes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You have the milk.
Sure.
You eat the cornflakes out. Imagine what it's like drinking that fucking milk.
Oh, God.
That
That's
is
always the
the
best
best
part.
It's
But
always,
it's taken all of the cocaine off the cornflakes, and it's just sitting there. It tastes a little bit corny, like a little something there, a little something to it.
yeah.
I can't even imagine how much cocaine would be in that milk.
I have a question I would like to pose to you to end this insane headline of the day discussion to start today's show.
Mm-hmm.
Which cereal makes the best after milk? Like, which cereal leaves
Don't
you
call
the...
it after milk.
That's
That's
what we're calling
fucking
it.
disgusting
hey, Jared,
sounding.
Jared, it's after milk. Hashtag after milk. I'm going to argue Fruity Pebbles or Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Cinnamon Toast Crunch, you get that, it's like that slightly browned after milk, Jared.
God.
But
We're talking about truffle butter over here? What the fuck, dude?
No,
but
I like where you're going here because you get a little kick from the cinnamon too to start your day, right?
No, it's nice.
It hits the sinuses, clears you out a little bit, especially with somebody with allergies. Cinnamon Toast Crunch is a great one.
the
There.
Fruity Pebbles, they get you this like rainbow colored after milk
God, that's disgusting.
that you then
That is so fucking gross.
drink. Okay, you're right. We shouldn't have called it that.
But I will say this: there's a speakeasy downtown in Austin.
Called After Milk?
Maybe that would be a good name for one. And they have a lot of drinks that include cereal milk, not called after milk, where they like soak milk in Cocoa Puffs is one of them.
Dude, Cocoa Puffs was going to be my go-to
Yeah.
for the best after milk. It's delicious.
Don't call
Nice-
it that.
Okay. I had something called like tea milk last night. I ordered a Thai dessert. I put up a picture of it on my Instagram.
Dude, that looks so good.
People
Whatever
were like,
you
"What the
eating.
hell is this?" It was like 2 different types of ice cream, but then I got like there was this thing on the
pancake?
menu called like moon milk or some kind of milk, some kind of crazy milk, and I ordered it, and I'm still not sure what it was, and I drank like half of it, but I don't think there was any cocaine in that.
Why
What did it
not?
taste like?
I mean, I fell asleep after. I was good.
Was it cold?
It was cold milk, but it was like
Sweet?
almost
Like,
like a slightly soured milk. I don't really know. It was strange. It was a weird dessert.
Was it before milk?
RVP 375 is brought to you by Felix Gray. There are a lot of blue light glasses on the market. To lump them all together is like lumping Honda Civics in with Corvettes together as cars. Screens produce the most blue light at a certain point in the spectrum at 455 nanometers, and most clear blue light lenses filter 2 to 3% of blue light from screens. Felix Gray filters 15 times more. High-quality frame materials make Felix Gray durable, super lightweight. They can be adjusted to fit Felix Gray glasses, to fit your face perfectly, to fit your head shape. They filter 15 times more blue light from screens than other blue light glasses. They're phenomenal. I've got the Faraday frames. I've got the Nash frames as well, if you want to give those a look. Their original optical lenses relieve most eye strain symptoms from daily screen time. We all use screens for several hours a day. 2020 demolished the normal workday, as we will discuss in a few minutes. And as such, we have all had to adjust to using our screens even more, to doing our meetings through Zoom, keeping up with friends and family through FaceTime. Your eyes are getting burned out on the blue light. Felix Gray is here to save you. They also have their more advanced sleep glasses, which relieve serious daily eye strain. You wear them leading up to bedtime to improve your sleep. Great quality, incredible design, industry-leading blue light lenses come standard at $95, or you can add your prescription at checkout starting at $145. Join the 250,000 people that report noticeable relief from screen time with their glasses. If you don't love your Felix Grays in the first 30 days, their in-house customer care team will take care of exchanges and returns. Go to felixgrayglasses.com/RBP now to shop better blue light glasses at their best price ever. That's FELIXGRAY glasses.com/RBP. Free shipping, free returns, free exchanges. FelixGrayGlasses.com/RBP. Time for some announcements and shouts. Happy birthday to Ethan. Thank you for the support. You can watch episodes of our show on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com, search the Ross Bolen podcast, and enjoy the visual experience of seeing at least one of us is half handsome. I don't know which one. But at least one of us, at least one half handsome grown man.
There's enough features between the three of us.
If you
to
combine
make-
us,
yeah, to
We need
make
somebody to
one-
do that.
Yeah,
that's,
very handsome.
that would be a terrifying.
A composite
Photoshop.
photo
Yeah.
of us three.
Yeah, just combined into like a man bear pig type of thing.
Yeah.
But a Ross Chris Jared type of thing. Yeah. If you want an ad-free Friday episode on Fridays, you go to patreon.com/Ross Bolen podcast to support the show. Pledge a minimum of $5 and you'll get an ad-free episode additionally each week. in addition to your Monday, Wednesday episodes, which are, of course, free to the public. Now it is time for our first segment of today's show. 1 year anniversary of working from home.
How cute.
I had a buddy text me this morning, and it's officially the 1 year anniversary of his entire company being put on work from home. Dude works for a big company, thousands and thousands of employees. It was one of the bigger companies to first announce, like, everybody's done. No more coming to the office. And I realize this is the case for a lot of people. A lot of people are either coming up on or just past their 1 year anniversary of not going to the office. Remember offices, Jared?
Yeah.
Remember in-person meetings? I remember. Remember shooting the shit with people less than 6 feet away from you in the break room?
Remember sitting next to my coworker, just chilling next to me. Him and I just taking a little 10-minute break, just shoot the shit. Our faces are 3 feet apart. We're sharing some chips and salsa from Cabo Bob's.
Yeah.
I remember.
Remember massaging Gary the janitor's feet after hours when you stayed to work late, Jared? What? Remember Casual Friday? Every day is like Slob Sunday now. Professionally casual would be a massive improvement for most of you in terms of day-to-day garb. There were a lot of pros and cons that came from this work-from-home situation as a result of the international pandemic. A lot of them. And they're different for everybody. The circumstances of your own life determine whether or not you have some of these pros or some of these cons. And we're going to work our way through them now. Some pros. Here's an obvious one. When you're at the office at work, one of the things that you're aware of as an employee, and I can speak to this from experience, is that if you don't do anything, someone might notice. There are people there also doing their jobs. You have a boss, a supervisor, some type of person looking over you, making sure that you're accomplishing the things that you're supposed to accomplish so that the company can make money. Now, any time you've taken a sick day in the past or worked from home as a result of some circumstance, which I'm sure most of us had before 2020, it had become a more and more common thing, you experience that freedom for the first time. And it's exhilarating. But when you have to deal with that every day, it shifts from a pro, the original version of it is a pro. You're like, oh, this is badass. Nobody knows when I'm working. I can do my thing whenever I want. If I want to run out to the grocery store for 30 minutes, get some errands done, it doesn't matter. For a lot of us, that was the case. And still is the case. But after a while, after a few weeks, when you have to self-manage, and it's like, there's nobody there to fucking check it, it's a totally different ballgame. And for some of you, it shifts to a con because you don't do dick.
Yeah.
I think the workflow has kind of been shifted as well. Everybody's kind of have to completely shift how they delegate tasks and how they operate a work week and how they even get shit done. You know what I mean? I can't imagine being in corporate America right now and trying, because I guarantee you at first, everybody tries to retain the same kind of pattern and strategies.
I mean,
that they've
everything
been doing.
changed though. It's like trainings changed,
Exactly,
the way you do meetings through Zoom, all
Slack.
of the. Oh my God, yeah, it's like all of the stuff that allows you to communicate more successfully, not in person, like Slack. It has become a huge part
Now,
of the day to day.
The big thing with Slack for Chris, you've never even used Slack, have you?
No, I haven't.
It's like Discord, but for professional adult
that's the only-
companies.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing about it that's similar to Discord is that it's a time suck, right? Pretty much everybody who uses Slack as their main form of communication at work understands that it is the opposite of a productivity tool. It is the biggest distraction in the world
Because you just end up chatting with
you just end up
everybody.
talking with people.
It's
literally
like
Discord.
it's like AIM back in the day.
Yeah.
Fucking AOL Instant Messenger.
So what happens is this: somebody will be like, "Hey, can you send this to me?"
Yep.
And then you send it back to them, and then you guys talk for 25 minutes about literally whatever, just because you've initiated a conversation,
And then you
both of
forget what
have
the
nothing
original.
to do.
Yeah, and you're both so desperate for human interaction at this point that it's just like, it's
/ Jiffy / space
yeah.
office GIF.
I
back
can't
and forth.
imagine Zoom meetings being highly productive for the first 45 minutes because everybody just gets in there and wants to talk about their life because they have nobody to fucking talk to about
And as
it.
everybody in corporate America knows, any conference call you're on,
Sucks
if you're not
already.
leading the conference call, you're throwing it on mute and you're not listening.
And you have your camera off a lot.
Yeah.
If you're allowed to. Nobody's ever had their camera on before being told, hey, can you turn your camera on?
You know how many meetings I've popped into with my camera off on purpose and just waited for somebody to be like, and Ross, we can't see you, just so then I'd have to turn it on?
Yeah.
Because you don't want people to be able to see you. I mean, people are masturbating in Zoom meetings, Jared.
People
Jeffrey
are going,
Tubin, the tube man.
The tube man.
The tube steak.
He's gone.
Yeah.
He was tubing too hard.
He tubed really
we got
hard.
cat lawyers now and shit.
Yeah,
Seriously?
dude. He's not a cat. No, he was not a cat.
You
He's
sure?
not a cat. Yeah, he's not a cat.
That was confirmed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's another pro. Unlimited bathroom and cigarette and porn breaks. The 3 things that people take breaks for at work, right? Right?
What?
Bathroom.
Yeah, but
Yeah, if you're going to the bathroom every 15 minutes at the office, people are like, what the hell's the deal with Jared? What did he eat?
I actually use a catheter at the office. Hustle mindset.
dude, stop.
What is
with
your
the
deal with
catheters?
catheters?
I've only
your
mentioned
deal.
catheters one time. Don't go off on
That
me
was
about
one
catheters.
time too
That was
many.
Okay,
that was
so-
2 episodes ago.
So we're a 2 catheter limit podcast. Is that
No,
what we
we were
are
a
now?
0
No,
limit
0.
podcast.
0.0.
All right, guys. All right. I think this is very anti-catheter.
It is.
Okay, Ross, here's why I was confused with what you said. You said unlimited bathroom and cigarette and porn breaks. I thought you meant individually. Of course, I always take my breaks and do all 3 of those at once.
Oh, that's what I
Blasting
meant.
heaters in the bathroom while watching porn. Yeah.
No. You do all 3 in one break.
Yeah. It'd be
You
really
go
weird.
use the bathroom
Imagine
while you smoke a
taking-
cigarette and fire up the porn.
Imagine taking individual breaks for those 3.
That'd be stupid.
Yeah, it's so dumb.
That'd be stupid. Very, very inefficient
Exactly.
is what I would argue. Also, another great thing about the work from home thing is dogs are at home.
I actually had in mind too. Huge pro. Dogs stay softer all week long because they have you around.
Yeah.
Get up, give little Georgie a nuzzle while you're going to the bathroom, cigarette, and jack off real quick. And then they still reach their peak softness on the weekend because they have your full attention. It's
Now,
fucking great.
There are some offices where dogs are allowed. People are allowed to bring their pets, mostly in like California and shit at cool companies.
My last company I worked at, there was always a minimum of 2 dogs in the office.
Now-
Sometimes up to 3.
This is very common in Austin, Texas as well, where we live, because Austin has grabbed so many different business practices from Silicon Valley and the like, and it's a progressive city. So more people have their dogs in the office here. But for those of you who work and live in corporate America, dogs in the office, people got dog allergies. Fucking Toby and HR won't allow it or whatever. Your dogs are at home, and the dogs are a nice little stress reliever in the middle of the day. You take a couple-minute break, pet the dogs or whatever, you feel better. It's nice. It's a good pro. Unrelated to the dogs being home is my last and final pro that I will give. Midday sex. If you and your partner both work from home, you can bone. Get a little afternoon delight.
J-Bone.
J-Bone. Nothing gives you a nice little boost in the middle of a workday like getting laid. Seriously, name a better thing. A nap?
Oh, maybe like just guzzling some after milk.
After milk could do it.
Just the yeah. I can't say what I have to now. The after milk just running down your chin,
Yeah.
like Ted Cruz's queso.
Maybe
it is
you
a
could
visceral
Goes down
experience.
your chin.
You know what? You could incorporate that into your afternoon delight.
Now, afternoon delight leads me to
After
the con.
milk delight.
God damn it. Kids, if you bone during the day, when you should be working or whatever, you could accidentally have kids. If you have kids and you're working from home, for all the parents out there, I'm sorry. Your last year and a half has been hellacious. Even if you're lucky enough to have an office space where you can get a little escape and a spouse or a partner to help you with the kids, they're there.
Or an Opel.
Au pair.
Yeah,
But they're there.
I think that's something, honestly, it probably took me about 6 months of quarantine before I even understood that every person who had a child has been with their child 24/7. And I was like, man, why is everybody, like, the schools is like the biggest news right now. Like, who gives a shit? Like, whatever, kids love being out of school. I was like, oh, the parents.
Oh, yeah, dude. It took me a few days, too, and I'm dating a parent. And it still took me a few days. I was like,
Dude, it took me 6 months.
so the schools are closed. Big whoop. Seems dope
Yeah,
for the kids.
They love it.
Fuck school, right? And then I was like, oh, every single adult with a child who has a job is screwed. And that is the case. Like, I've got buddies with 3 kids who have been at home for a full year. My buddy who texted me this morning, you know why he's keeping track? You know why he knows the exact day in which he became a work-from-home guy? Because he has 3 fucking kids. And he's lost his mind. He marked that day on the calendar as the worst day of his entire life.
I mean, I saw like week 1 of school going back in, kindergartners on computers all day long. Like, who thought this was a good idea in any capacity? I mean, I don't know what
COVID.
else you do.
We had no choice.
Yeah, I guess I don't know what else you fucking do, but good God, I can't imagine a 6-year-old trying to stay locked into a teacher through a camera
Fuck them kids,
on a
man.
computer.
The adults are dying.
Oh, no, that's what I'm
These
saying.
people are all slipping into the depths of insanity.
Yeah, because there's no fucking way that they can stay locked in. They're just nagging on their parents all day long. I couldn't imagine.
It's another reason that the stock market just spiking through the roof in 2020 was absurd to me. I was like, none of us are working. Nobody's doing
No
anything.
productivity.
Productivity's at the lowest it's ever been, inarguably. Like, look at the super fucking storm of things that came together. Like, streaming and entertainment has never been bigger. right? And more accessible from home, at the same time as all the work from home shit, where all the kids are stuck at home with their parents too, where most of us were not working that much. Most Americans were working, what is it, like an average of 3 hours a day or some shit like that? It's like some hilarious statistic.
That's not the hustle mindset.
It's not at all. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And if you've had kids at home this entire time, God bless you, because you're one of the real heroes out there. Another con could be your spouse being at home all the time. Look, for a lot of marriages and a lot of relationships, the only thing keeping them going was that 9 to 5 where they don't have to be with each other.
Sounds very healthy.
People getting locked in the same space together all day, every day, that maybe didn't like each other very much in the first place, especially if you got kids compounded on top of that. Ooh-wee, it got stressful for you this past year. Mad stressful, which brings me to my final point. Your work and your home space becoming the same space is probably the biggest con of them all. We spoke to this a little bit in one of the Monday mental health messages we did in the past several weeks, because it became a real problem for me. Living in Bolen Media HQ and working all day in the same space I lived, 10 feet from where I slept. At one point, my therapist brought it up because I was doing teletherapy with her, right? And she was like, is the chair you're sitting in where you do your job? And I was like, no, because I knew where she was going with it. And I was like, yes, it's where I do many, many things. She was just like, that's not good. And I was like, no, it's not. It makes it really difficult to separate your headspace. You know how a lot of, this is a struggle for people who know really a 9 to 5 job. When you get off the clock, switching back from the office work mentality to your regular everyday personality to interact with your friends and family, it can be difficult depending on your job and the stress of your job. And for a lot of us, we have to change our persona a little bit for work. Most of us.
Mm-hmm.
We act more professionally. We dress more professionally. We speak in a different tone. You've heard people take phone calls and sound completely different on the phone than they do all of the time because that's their work voice. And switching out of that back to home, and I mean, that's like just the stupidest little piece of it. Think about how that applies to your mentality and the way you feel, your stress levels, your anxiety. It can really be crushing, and you have to find ways to make your home still your home if it is also your workspace. And that means really making sure that there's an area, even if it's a corner with a chair, there's an area you work that you're only in that area when you work, so that your mind can have a better idea of what it's supposed to be focused on. Because that part of it is difficult. It's what I found to be the biggest con of this whole work from home situation for all three of us. Chris, prior to this, was not employed here yet. Jared and I being at a company that was already very work from home friendly. And frankly, the last 6 months of which, when it was falling apart, we weren't in the office anymore.
And we literally were working from home.
We literally were already working from home. So it wasn't like as big of a shift. But for a lot of y'all, man, this has been one of the biggest changes as a result of COVID, is that you're stuck in your house or your place of where you live, your domicile. That's what I like to call it. And that's also your office. And you're probably just now getting to a place where that feels mildly productive. So let's close this segment out by me asking this. Do you think, boys, that offices and like the corporate office environment will ever come back to what it was pre-2020?
I think no. Like, to answer that question very specifically and shortly, no. I don't think it'll ever go back to the exact way it was. I do think we will have iterations of it, but you talked earlier to where you were saying you think productivity is lowered, and I do agree with that, especially for people that have kids and lots of other life shit going on that they have to deal with. They just don't have the time to work from home.
Focus,
and
the energy,
the focus, yeah, the mental power. But, you know, for the let's say mid-20s to mid-30s, living in an apartment where you can work from home, you don't have kids, you have a spouse or something like that, but you really can lock in and work. I do think that some people in some jobs have been able to be more productive in less time because they can focus in, lock in, get their shit done, move on with their life. Because at the office, you're locked in 9 to 5. You know what I mean?
And for a lot of people, to your point, the office can be a very distracting place. You've got people coming up to you constantly asking you about questions, blah, 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 blah. When you're at home, for a lot of people, it did give them that opportunity to I guarantee you, a lot of Americans restructured their workday to be like 10 to 3, and they crush everything they need to in that span. and it is a better lifestyle than the 9-to-5 grind was.
I disagree
Absolutely.
with both of you.
Okay.
Give us your take.
Okay, so I think this work from home time has made a lot of people realize that they need the office setting in order to be productive.
Okay, so I was going to go there next, but continue. Yeah.
So, at least for me personally, like, I was so much more productive and locked in when I was in an office setting at the same company than when it went to work from home, right? And so I think what's going to happen is people who were more productive from home are going to keep working from home. But everybody else who felt that like they either were the same and want the social aspect of the office or were less productive,
Right.
are going to go and work in the office. And so I think what's going to happen is it will not be noticeable, but there will be more of your coworkers working from home. But you won't be like, wow, this office is so empty now. I think offices are going to be pretty much the same level of emptiness, same level of interactivity for people who like that.
Yep.
But you're going to have more people who never come into the office.
Yeah, I think we'll see some sort of like hybrid thing where a lot of companies are also switching to more task-based as opposed to strictly 9 to 5. You know what I mean? Like if you get this, and this done, this is your week, right? You get what I'm saying? And kind of giving people more of the option, like you're saying. If you feel that you work really well from home and you're getting all the shit done that you need to get done, have at it. Work from home. If you need to come into the office for 3 hours a day, 4 days a week to get that same shit done, have at it. Come on in.
That's a good point. Well, it won't. It'll probably be more like this. Hey, Jared, you were great at work from home. You can continue. Hey, Chris, you were ass. You can't. Like, there's gonna be. It's gonna be very managerial in some companies, and it's also very much circumstantial based on the type of work that the company does. More creative work is more
conducive.
Yeah,
to...
it's conducive to that sort of laissez-faire schedule, whereas really, really corporate shit like accounting, for example, or tasks that require people to be in the same office space to more successfully do their job, to be able to collaborate more successfully, it's going to be different based on what you do, where you work. And we've seen some iterations about here are the changes that corporate America could make to the office space for it to be safe post-COVID or whatever. And we'll see a lot of that sort of the new iteration of the American workplace or the international. I mean, not just in America. This is going to be a thing everywhere, right? Big corporate real estate is going to have to adjust to the post-COVID world, and we will see a lot of that sort of hybrid mentality when it comes to whether or not people are allowed to go to the office, have to work at the office, have to work from home, or a split. And it's just that'll be one of the more interesting things to see coming out of this in 2022, 2023, hopefully, is what the hell happens to the old school office place after it's all said and done, now that we're a year in, and we'll move on from there. RBP 375 is also brought to you by Flora CBD. Flora believes in making the natural benefits of CBD more available to the public. That's why they offer a wide range of CBD products in different forms, strengths, and flavors. Whether you're new to CBD or an experienced user, there's a Flora CBD product for you. I have told y'all many times, I quit tobacco products finally. Finally, after 16 years, I left tobacco in the past in 2020. Flora CBD has CB Dip. It's dip made with non-GMO full-spectrum hemp flower for a healthier, tobacco-free dip alternative. It's one of the ones that I used and still continue to use to this day in lieu of tobacco products. Each can of their dip contains long-cut CBD-rich flowers, providing users with a convenient and fast-acting consumption method. They've got a variety of naturally derived flavors, including southern peach and bourbon. Their non-tobacco dip delivers all the natural benefits of CBD, stimulating all your senses. It's delicious. Dippers, it will most definitely be your favorite CBD consumption method. You got to try the CB Dip. Go use code RBP at gotflora.com for 20% off site-wide. That's GOTFLORA.com. Use the code RBP for 20% off. Next segment.
Grab your light. This is Stuff the Wikipedia when you're high.
Stuff the Wikipedia when you're high.
All right. Today's Stuff to Wikipedia when you're high. Okay, I'm going to butcher this. The name? Can I just spell it first? Hiroo. Hiru Onoda. Onoda. Onoda.
Definitely got
Hiru
the last name right.
Onoda. He was an Imperial Japanese Army intelligence officer who fought in World War II. But his real story is that he was a Japanese holdout who did not surrender at the war's end in August of 1945. So the war ends, August 1945, and this dude, Hiru Onoda, said nah, basically. And after it ended, he spent 29 years hiding out in the Philippines under his former commander. He traveled from Japan. Until his former commander traveled from Japan to formally relieve him from duty by order of Imperial Showa in 1974. So from the end of the war in 1945
Yes.
until his former commander traveled by order of the emperor to relieve him formally in 1974.
Yes.
He fought a one-man war.
Yes.
What was he doing though? He's just hiding out. What's the point of going? I will not surrender, but I will be hiding out for 29 years.
Here's the other thing. This is the fucking most insane part of the entire thing to me. He was the penultimate Japanese soldier to surrender. So there was a dude who lasted even longer than him, a gentleman named Teruo Nakamura, who surrendered later in 1974. So somebody that went even longer in the same year, I guess, then saw him surrender and was like, oh shit, this is over?
But the thing is, our dude Onada was not just hiding out in the woods, J-Bone. He was out there, like, fighting his guerrilla war
What was he
against
doing?
the local townspeople
Destroying
for literally
airstrips?
29 years. Yeah.
Like doing attacks on harbors. Like he had been told apparently that under no circumstances was he to surrender or take his own life. And he took that very, very seriously.
Well, the Japanese soldiers that fought for the Empire, that's why they did, like, bonsai missions and bonsai attacks and
kamikaze?
kamikaze bombs and
What's
stuff
a
like that.
bonsai attack?
A bonsai's attack where you put the bayonet on and literally just charge your death when they yell bonsai.
Yeah.
Like, it was literally
It's
just
the
like
storming infantry units with the stabbing and
with
the
bayonets. It was basically a suicide mission.
Yeah.
Same with the
It was
their
the way
life,
they sent waves over, though. Like, waves across. It'd be like a group of dudes yelling bonsai fucking 5,000 deep, followed by another wave of dudes. You know what I'm saying? It was just like an onslaught constantly. That was the thing that Japan presented.
But the mentality was your life was for the nation, for the home country, for the emperor. Like, that was it. That was your only purpose. And so
Which
that's
fits
why...
with what you just nailed, too. The kamikaze and the bonsai stuff was all part of that, like, sort of your life didn't matter at all.
No.
You were part of
The bigger
Mother
picture.
Japan, and you
Yes.
were there to die on behalf of the country.
I mean, literally later on, down in the article, it talks about this dagger that he had with him the entire time. That was a gift from his mother when he enlisted to kill himself if he was captured.
that's intense.
I read a news article. This just reminded me about this book that came out late last year called Memoirs of a Kamikaze, and it's a guy who he kept getting sent out on the missions, and he just like didn't do it. But like he I think he was able to find like excuses for why he didn't do it. Like either way, the news article I read makes me want to read the book. And now after this conversation, I think I need to get this book.
Oh, it's a very, very fascinating mentality, the way of the Japanese people during imperialistic Japan. But
And I should note, like, I just said that all out loud about these Japanese soldiers and their mentality, and like that's very much what you're indoctrinated when it was indoctrinated into you when you join the military in the United States
Sure.
too. The thinking is like you give up your individuality
for the higher power.
and you become a part of something bigger, and your life is no longer significant. It's the country and the ideals that you're fighting for that become significant. So it's not as if that Japanese mentality is something that we don't also put into our military.
Yeah.
And it's just that the way they stuck with it was on a different level than what we've seen in the United States thus far. Anybody who's studied World War II is familiar with just how intense the Pacific part of that war, that struggle was, and that's why we ended up dropping two most devastating bombs in the history of our planet to stop that side. This was the argument anyway, of course, to stop that side of the battle because Japan was just gonna keep going. Like it was gonna take. They basically decided, based on Japan's mentality and the way they've fought and the amount of soldiers they're willing to sacrifice, here's how many people will die if we let this continue. Here's how many people will die if we drop these two nukes. This math makes more sense.
Now, you then like obviously there's so much like nuance.
Oh my God.
here.
So
Yeah.
it's the most intense decision ever made.
Because it's like all this is like, okay,
Ever.
If we don't drop the bombs,
There's so
you
many
have all these
hypotheticals.
people who are going to die on both sides. However, those people are soldiers.
Different people, right?
Not
These are
civilians.
citizens. Yeah, it's a civilian. It's a totally, I mean, that remains to me it's probably the most fascinating decision in human history.
Oh yeah, how
Oh,
many
definitely.
people
Yeah.
died?
Hundreds of thousands of people from the face of the earth in an instant is like a godlike
Power.
Yes. that we actually executed.
It is a godlike
as a country.
100,000 people, 129,000 to 226,000 is the range of people who died from those bombs.
Many, many people.
That is
Fucked up. Very
unbelievable.
fucked
Who
up.
was the president who did that? Truman? LBJ?
Why do I not? It's
Truman?
not. It
Use
wasn't
the Google.
Eisenhower. Was
Use the
it?
Google. Use the Google machine, and I'll finish out our boy Onata here. Okay, so when they sent him to relieve him of duty, when they sent his former commander, he turned over his sword, a functioning Type 99 rifle, 500 rounds of ammunition, and several hand grenades, as well as the dagger that Cole spoke to, the one his mother had given him in 1944 to kill himself with if he was captured. And only Nakamura, the dude we spoke to earlier, arrested on the 18th of December 1974 in Indonesia, held out longer.
Mm-hmm. Over his time in the Philippines, Onata killed around 30 civilians of the Indonesian town, burned thousands of pounds of their rice over the 30 years he was there. As Jared said, destroyed landing strips, got in multiple skirmishes with the local police. There were 2 separate occasions on which pamphlets were dropped to them in the 1940s telling them the war was over. On separate occasions, it started out as a squadron of 4. Over the course of that, 1 person deserted, 2 people died, leaving Onata by himself. They even dropped him pictures of his family back home, telling them, we want you to come home. The war is fucking over. And he
Dude.
was like, nah, that's Allied propaganda.
The 2 guys that died, it's not like they weren't being hunted. One of them was killed by a search party looking for the men in 1954.
Yep.
Another was killed by local police in one of those shootouts in 1972. So it's like he had other guys with him a lot of the time. But in the end, it was just him.
And the fascinating thing is how he's found. So on February 20th of 1974, Onata met a Japanese man, Nyororo Suzuki, definitely butchered the first name, sorry, who was traveling around the world looking for Lieutenant Onata, a panda, and the Abominable Snowman in that order. Suzuki found Onata after 4 days of searching, which let me just say, if it was only 4 days of searching, he probably thought he was going to find the Abominable Snowman like by Christmas and like be home for a nice dinner, and definitely did not find that as far as we know.
Only 4 days. Wasn't that hard to find him, huh?
Onata described the moment in 2010 after an interview saying, this hippie boy Suzuki came up to the island to listen to the feelings of a Japanese soldier. Suzuki asked me why I would not come out. Onata and Suzuki became friends, but Onata still refused to surrender, saying that he was waiting for orders from his superior officer. Suzuki returned to Japan with photographs of himself and Onata as proof of their encounter, and the Japanese government located
shit.
Onata's commanding officer from back in the 40s, Major Taniguchi, who had long surrendered and since became a bookseller. Dude literally hasn't thought about the war in 30 years, is just selling like copies of, the Harvey Boys and whatever
How has
to
this not
local
been made
Japanese
into a
ones?
movie? This is
Right?
a phenomenal story.
Has to put on his full fucking officer's uniform to go back to the Philippines to get Onata to surrender. And that was the only way that he would agree to come back to Japan.
But the beauty of it is that it fulfilled a promise that he had made to Onata back in 1944, where he said, whatever happens, we'll come back for you.
And come back they did.
And he really did. He really did.
Onata spent his days after returning to Japan. He wrote an autobiography to capitalize on the incredible story of his 30-year journey in the Philippines.
Oh, by the way, if you're wondering, like, what the fuck, he killed a bunch of people in the Philippines for 30 years after the war ended, it seems like there should be some consequences to that. No, they pardoned him.
Yeah,
okay.
They pardoned him for all the shit he did in the Philippines.
The Filipino
president. Ferdinand Marcos pardoned him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
weird move, in my opinion.
Onata returns to Japan, is very unhappy with the basically Japan had kind of moved away from its traditional values that they held so highly during the Second World War. He was unhappy with that, so he moved to Brazil to a small Japanese colony down there where a bunch of former war veterans were basically raising cattle, living out their lives in peace. And he kind of split his time for the rest of his life between Japan and Brazil, starting a couple nature schools back home to help young boys and girls learn about
nature schools.
Onata nature schools to help them kind of connect with their surroundings and return to their Japanese roots.
Huzzah. He passed away from heart failure on January 16, 2014 at age 91 after fighting a 30-year war.
And so
By
people
himself.
don't be left hanging. President Truman dropped the bomb.
Truman.
Thank you.
There you go. Harry Truman. And that's today's Stuff to Wikipedia when you're high. Haru Onata.
It's a wild
What a
story.
character.
Fascinating stuff. Next segment. Chris D'Elia finally speaks. where do I start? Chris D'Elia, formerly one of the most famous and highly paid stand-up comedians in the world. A guy that got his start back on Vine, the social media platform. In my opinion, he was the best person on Vine, funniest person on Vine. Became wildly successful in stand-up, broke into Hollywood, starred in, You, Season 2, where he actually ironically played a famous comedian who was preying on young girls.
Yep.
Oh, good.
Which was a big part of the story when it broke, that he was accused by multiple women of sexually harassing underage girls and grooming them, and one alleged victim claimed he asked for nude photos of her knowing she was a minor. Another allegedly accused him of attempting to groom her. Screenshots of conversations between these women and the comic have been shared over and over. He was dropped by CAA, his talent agency, and he released an initial statement when it first happened. Hasn't said shit since. And his initial statement was essentially, look, every relationship I've ever had was consensual and legal. And then he disappeared. Now, he's back. And he releases a YouTube video with the title, It's Been a While. Breaks his silence and speaks on the allegations against him. Essentially, now I want to say this up front, I was a very big fan of this man.
I never was, personally.
I loved him on Vine. I watched one of his OG stand-ups and fucking hated it. I thought it was awful. It was something about the way he was trying to, like, I don't know how to put this. He was forcing too much, like, fake hip-hop into his act. That's the only way I know how to put it. And it made me want to punch him right in the face. And I hated it, and I was discouraged, and it bummed me out. And then I stopped paying attention to it for a while, and then he really, really rounded out his stand-up game. I actually ended up seeing him live in the, what's the badass little fucking theater we have? Moody Theater. As part of the Austin City Limits or whatever the shit, ACL Live. He was awesome. And then all this shit came out, and I'm obviously not a fan anymore. I'm just weirded out by the entire thing. And he's one of these guys, just like Louis C.K., where when you look back on his stand-up, when you go watch Chris D'Elia stand-up now, after the fact, knowing what you know, it's very awkward and obvious that something is wrong.
He also, like you said, he played a comedian who preyed on underage girls in You. He also played a child molester in Workaholics. He was Topher the child molester.
Yes, he was. That was one of his first things he ever did that was huge. One of the first places we ever saw him was on Workaholics, one of the first 2 seasons, I believe, where he played a child molester, which all of that stuff together makes the Chris D'Elia story disturbing and really, really just, it's like, because here's the thing. At no point has he been legally accused of, like in a court of law, or charged with a crime. So it's a strange gray area that brings up the topic mostly of the age of consent. And this is a man in his 30s with an enormous amount of power and celebrity status, using that to sleep with women, and whether or not that's okay. And that basically is how he starts. Like, he opens up this YouTube video telling us that he got laid a lot. Like, that's what he opens with. And I'll tell you, just from the get-go, his tone isn't correct. He clearly doesn't get it, is my biggest takeaway. Like, he doesn't get what it is about the situation that made people truly uncomfortable. He doesn't get that his like, he basically says, like, look, I got really famous, and, like, it got super easy to get laid. So I started fucking all of the time. And it was like this thing where my whole life became about getting laid. And I was like, well, I like getting laid, so I'll just fuck a lot. It's like, dude, everyone listening is familiar with sex.
Yeah. And they know that you wanted to have sex and
Are
get
you
laid.
explaining it to us like we're fucking idiots? Like, it was just bizarre to hear him like, no, I don't think you guys get it. I was getting mad laid all of the time, and sex is super dope.
What was interesting to me about it was that he was claiming that after every show in every city, he would get 50 DMs from women.
And respond to every single one.
Every single one. Every single time. What's that, like 5 nights a week?
Now, let me explain something for those of you who maybe don't get the full picture of what maybe this looks like. I'll just give you, from a dude who's worked on the internet for 10 years and not been hit up by lots of girls through DM over the course of that 10 years, especially as a result of working on TFM back in the day, when girls were trying to use our platform to gain exposure, and in many cases did that successfully. One of them ended up getting a double tap from the Pope eventually, which was huge for her. Look, we got DMs, and just if you gain any level of internet notoriety or fame, at some point, as a male or female, you will be offered a sexual advance as a result of that. And you have to make the decision, am I going to do this? And maybe you do it once. Maybe you hook up with a fan. Maybe you respond to a DM and get laid out of it or whatever. But then you're making the decision again. Well, what did that feel like? You're judging that. Did that feel right? Do I feel a little used? The whole thing is a little twisted. It's not a real regular relationship. And what I want people to understand about the D'Elia thing is this didn't happen. Like, the way he puts it is like, sex was awesome. And then, like, next thing I knew, it was controlling my life. It's like, no. You made hundreds of decisions before it controlled your life. You did it once, loved the power, did it again. Finally probably went from like a 22-year-old to like one of them was 18. And you were like, oh shit, that was wild. She was 18. How much can I get away with? And this is a dude power hungry, pushing the fucking ball as far as he could down the field before somebody stopped him. That's the part that makes people uncomfortable, is that we all, if you know men, right? If you know dudes like Chris D'Elia, which a lot of us do, I certainly do, then you know exactly what happened here. And it's not confusing. So to try to bring it out like it's this fucking wild explanation that you were getting sex and that sex is great and that you got out of control and like you have a sex problem, but that's just not, this didn't feel sorry. It didn't feel like an apology. It felt like, look, I fucked a lot. I think I have a problem with it. I'm seeking help. Deal with it. You can either like it or not. And it's like, well, I'm going to not then. I choose to not like this. I don't feel like he got out of this several months of not speaking, and that's what he came with. It was upsetting to me as a fan. It was upsetting to me as somebody who thought, you know, if he was quiet for that long, maybe it clicked. Maybe he was like, holy shit, I'm sick. I am sick to the point that I'm obsessing over women who are too young. And I know 18, which a lot of these girls were, is legal technically in a lot of our states or whatever in the United States. Okay? But as a 33-year-old man now, and with finally enough distance between me and like adolescence where I can actually speak on this, an 18-year-old girl is a fucking child.
And by the way, Chris D'Elia is now 40. So when this all happened, he was 39.
Late 30s. That is a child. When I see an 18-year-old, I'm like, that's a child. That's a kid. Like, it is a bigger gap than you believe when you're a kid. When I was 18, I remember thinking, like, I don't see what the big deal is. Like, 27-year-old hooking up with a college chick or whatever. Like, who gives a fuck? They're all legal adults. But no. When you're 18, you don't know shit. No. As I've said many, many times on this show, I became an adult at like 27, arguably 30, before I could make rational decisions for myself. 18-year-old girls don't have the wherewithal to know how a decision on hooking up with a celebrity comic is going to impact their lives. And when you start to get, look, that's just a weird place to be. And if you hang there and decide, this is my zone, I'm doing all the 18-year-old girls I can that I get hit up by after all my shows, and then you get caught, like, dude, either own it or don't. But coming with the half, I'm a sex addict and I fucked up, but y'all can either like me or not kind of attitude, it just weirded me out. And especially when you add in the fact that if you go watch his stand-up now, it comes off as very angry and bitter, sometimes creepy. If you go back and think about, like, he did a lot of, like, ads for sponsors of his podcast where he'd be, like, in boxers dancing sexually on Instagram. Like, shit like that was funny is not funny now. Because as he said in the video, everything in his life became about getting laid. Which guys know that. Every college dude at some point, their life was literally only about getting laid. I'm sure the same is for women. That there were points in your life where the focus is sex. You go to class because you want to see if there are any hot girls in class. You go to parties because you want to meet hot girls. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything at that point in my life was driven by sex. There was a point. Like, but then you become an adult and you go, oh, there's much more than this. But fortunately for most of us, we don't get to be 39-year-old famous people who then explore the, I don't know, the appeal of hooking up with barely legal girls over and over across the country and just slamming them with the most obvious DMs of all time, which he also basically was like, look, I thought the more straight up I was, the less creepy it was. Which is, it didn't work out for him.
Well, you know, was it
'cause he was like-
J.R. Smith? He sent the legendary
You
one?
trying to get the pipe?
Yeah. Is that better or worse than...
That's much better. It was a question. And D'Elia was saying stuff like, come to my hotel room, let's make out. Which is not what a 39-year-old says to an 18-year-old.
Yeah,
bro.
that's like...
Oh God, it's so.
It makes
creepy and
all of
call
it...
me daddy shit.
Yes, it makes all of it inexcusably creepy. And for him to not understand that and to come, like, again, the time that has passed between then and now is a big part of why I'm so down on this YouTube video and the it's been a while announcement he's made. Because everyone on Earth knew it was easy for famous people to get laid. Nobody was
pretty
confused
familiar
about
with that.
Yeah, had a good
And
feeling.
he notes in the video, he says like he was lying to himself and saying that anybody in his position would do that, and he knows now that that's not true. But like you probably knew that at the time.
You
too.
knew that
had
at the
to know
time,
that at
bro.
the
That's the
time.
thing. Is like, don't come at us with that sideways shit and pretend that.
And like, I've never been on tour or anything like that before, but I could imagine if you're on tour, you're with pretty much the same group of people on your tour most nights. I guarantee you, like either.
Well, he was being
one,
enabled for sure.
Yeah, they definitely know what's going on and
That's why I
weren't
don't-
telling him
his
it's wrong.
whole crew and shit.
Yeah, it goes way deeper than just
The
that.
crew
like, it's
never
fucked.
gets. I will say this: the crew in these cases never does get any
Criticism?
any criticism.
His crew's gotten a lot of flack.
Think of how they actually.
It's been a weird spot because a lot of them, they were like best friends, toured together. He would show up in other dudes' sets. They made it like all this social media they did, him and these couple other comedians that I'm not going to name, just because I'm not trying to show love to anybody at the moment. I'm criticizing a dude for taking advantage of his position and hooking up with a lot of really, really young girls. And I just think, look, in life, there's a difference between temptation and action. And when you're tempted by something, as a human being, it's your responsibility to analyze that situation and decide whether it's responsible. If you make the wrong decision, that's one thing. But if you make the wrong decision over and 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 over, and evidence comes out of that, and then you try to somehow
Change the issue.
wrap it up in a sex addiction thing, I'm like, that's where it gets funky for me. It's where it gets funky for me, because if the shoe's on the other foot, if this is a female, a 39-year-old, 40-year-old female who had fucked a whole bunch of 18-year-old boys, and she came out like, oh, I'm a sex addict, nobody would give a shit. It's just
yeah.
because he's a man.
So I have two questions to ask you, Ross. So what are your thoughts in general on sex addiction as somebody who discusses addiction a lot?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a very real thing, and I understand that sex addiction is a thing, and it becomes a controlling addiction that people need help for and that they need treatment for. But I also understand, much like with anxiety and depression and things that have become more and more common and the stigma has been removed from, there is a downside to that, and it's that people use it as an excuse. So you see a lot of celebrities get caught cheating on their spouse and then go, I'm a sex addict. You see a lot of people get a DWI and go, I'm an alcoholic, and go to rehab for a week. And then, they were never actually there because they thought they were an alcoholic. It's about the press, the PR,
optics.
the optics of the situation. And it's really unfortunate for people who struggle with sex addiction for real. And I'm not saying D'Elia doesn't. I'm not his fucking doctor. What I'm saying is his statement was lacking. And and that it's unfortunate for everybody who struggles with sex addiction on a daily basis that knows what it really is, and that somebody comes out and gives you this half-ass fake fucking celebrity-washed version of it that really puts the stigma back on it. That if you were a real sex addict, you hate shit like this because you're like, motherfucker, nobody takes my goddamn sex problem seriously.
Yeah, it's also like, I mean, this dude is kind of not really being a sex addict when it's so easy for you and you just let it happen. I feel like real sex addicts, it like literally controls their life because number one, they're having all the sex. Number two, they have to seek it out. He's just like,
That's
it's so easy.
That's
Okay,
a
I'll
great
just take
difference.
it.
It's a huge
Like
point.
it's not impacting his life. He's just taking it.
He's
Yeah.
not chasing prostitutes
Yeah,
every
no.
night or like going to bars and having to buy 30 different women drinks to try to get one to
Yeah.
sleep with him. He's answering DMs city after city after city.
Which he was saying he was getting 50 a night.
Yes.
So,
And
yeah.
responding to all of them.
And I bet it was more.
And sex
Just being
addiction,
straight up.
again, addressing sex addiction has nothing to do with addressing pedophilia. So,
Which he is not committed legally.
legally, correct.
And
As far as
I'm
we
not-
know, we don't know all the details.
I have no
obviously.
fucking idea, but clearly he was skewing in that direction, which is the thing that makes people most uncomfortable with it all. So when it comes down to it, it didn't bring me back. I don't think I'll ever be brought back now to being able to support dude. It's like another. I keep being let down by these comics that I really respect, and it's another one to bite the dust. That motherfucker, man.
I have a question for you, Ross.
Mm-hmm.
So some people are going to be listening to this and going, "Oh, Ross is perpetuating cancel culture." Da 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 da. How was your response to that?
Sure. Look, I don't like cancel culture any more than the next person does. I think it's wildly annoying that we're constantly seeking out reasons to cancel people all over the internet. This is not that. This is flagrant. This is not. I'm not canceling the guy. I'm choosing not to support him. I mean, what anybody else does with this information is up to them. It's just important. I think part of cancel culture is that people now have the ability to express that they are no longer going to support somebody online. The part of that part's fine to me. The part of cancel culture that's toxic is when you have situations like, I'll give you an example. I saw a woman on Twitter yesterday who got the trend, the hashtag, I think it was Cash App is stealing people's money, trending worldwide. And if you went and actually checked the story, it was a woman who, this was absolutely above board. She had fucked around and like done something questionable with her account that got it canceled. Then they ended up taking care of the whole situation and everything got worked out. But because she went on this cancel crusade, it got all these random people who had thousands and thousands of people who had no idea what was even going on chiming in using the hashtag. That's cancel culture. Mm-hmm. That snowball of like just a bunch of ignorant, like uninvolved people jumping into a thing to be like, burn the witch. That's cancel culture. This is a guy I'm a fan of, whose career I followed and was invested in, and I have every right to speak on and choose to support or not support. It's not some random shit that I'm completely unfamiliar with that I'm like doing a segment on to yell out, cancel Jeb Bush, or I don't know, just please clap.
And at times you've, put out things before where you've talked about that you were a fan of Chris Coulson. So when you have something out there that you've shown you've invested in somebody, I think you have every right to now state your personal opinions on that investment.
Cole, somebody tagged us the other day in a YouTube that was like, well, this segment didn't age well in one of our old episodes. And it was the one where after I went to his show, I did a review of it. And so, yeah, I'm going to speak on When the Man Speaks Up because it was a dude that it was one of my favorite comics and somebody I'd spoken on the show multiple times about. So that's all I have to say about the man who used to be the greatest Viner of all time, Chris D'Elia, also Topher the child molester on Workaholics, and Henderson, the comedian who preyed on underage girls on You, and then who liked them just too close to barely legal.
He's a method actor, right?
Yeah, I was going to say it has to be.
Method actor. RBP 375 is also brought to you by MyBookie, the official sports betting sponsor of the Ross Bolen podcast. You go to MyBookie.ag. You can bet on the NBA regular season. What sports are there right now?
Soccer.
NASCAR.
Premier League soccer.
Hockey.
Premier League soccer.
Hockey's on.
Hockey is on.
Lacrosse.
Baseball's about to come back. Lacrosse. Bet on all of the sports. You can bet on TV and entertainment. They have prop bets. They've got live in-game betting. If you miss tip-off or whatever, it doesn't fucking matter. You can still get your bets in. Halftime lines.
UFC, if you had bet on Derek Lewis with that crazy knockout.
That's
I will
my
say,
dude, Derek Lewis.
That last punch seemed a little bit excessive. That man might be
Look,
dead.
Derek
First plays
Lewis
may be a dead man. But
Derek Lewis doesn't care.
He's the preeminent knockout artist in the world right now.
What is that, 15 or 16? This guy's from Houston, okay? And
I
he
didn't know
might
that.
be the greatest representation of Houston ever. He's incredible. His nickname is the Black Beast, and all he does is knock people the fuck out. Like, not like, oh, that was dope. He like the guy that he like choked out that guy. No. Like Jared just said, you're concerned for the man's life after they get knocked out by Derek Lewis. He's awesome. You can bet on Derek Lewis every time he fights at MyBookie.ag. You just use the code RBP when you sign up for a deposit bonus. Stipulations apply. MyBookie.ag, been a great sponsor of ours. We love sports here. # sports. I've just been betting against the Rockets lately, and it's been working out phenomenally. It's called hedging your emotions.
Are they losing or no?
Yeah, they can't stop losing. It's awesome.
God.
It's really, really awesome. Go to MyBookie.ag today. Bet on some sports using the code RBP when you make your deposit, and you'll get that deposit bonus. Stipulations apply. Time for our next segment, Monday Mental Health Message. So today, for our Monday Mental Health Message this week, we wanted to quickly talk about, like, when you're, okay, for example, we just got stuck in a situation where all of us were in our homes with varying degrees of power and water for several days, right? In the case of you two, no power for several days. That sucked, right? Sinks you down into a little bit of a rut, a hole, if you will. When you get into like a life lull like that, it can be good to have a television show or a movie that can give you that one endorphin you need. To just give you a little kickstart, a little pick-me-up, a boost to get things moving in the right direction. You know, like typically for me, like I'll chug coffee, go for a run, and try not to shit myself. That's a challenge I do. That's a thing that I get to get the jolt of energy in me, you know? But if it's frozen outside, I can't do that. So I need a TV show or a movie, and this actually ended up being something that I needed over this past weekend, and girlfriend was like, sit down. We're going to watch one of your favorite movies that makes you happy. Which one do you want? I was like, Liar, Liar. And we watched it, and it was unbelievable. By the way, I'm trying to line up an interview with Tom Shadyac, the director of Liar, Liar, Ace Ventura, some of the OG incredible Jim Carrey movies, that is good friends with Jade Bryce of The Magic Hour, who's been a guest on our show, so something we might have to look forward to in the future. But I watched Liar, Liar, and just watching this one of my favorite childhood comedies, one of my favorite actors of all time in Jim Carrey, doing some of the funniest shit he's ever done that apparently is only funny to me because girlfriend mostly just sat there and was like, what the fuck? As I cackled like an idiot. It really helped, man. It really it put me in a place where I was just like, all right, I can get back to it. You know, it gave me that one endorphin to make me feel like everything was going to be okay and I could just get back to it. So I'm going to give you a couple other examples of movies and TV shows that I watch when I need a little something, something. Sometimes it's just like I need something to watch for 30 minutes at the end of the night. At the end of the day, you know, maybe I just watched a hardcore true crime doc or some shit. I'm not trying to go to bed on that. I need something as a chaser. Hook, all-time favorite of mine. The Robin Williams, Dustin Hoffman Hook. Peter Pan movie, Hook.
Hook. Oh, also the Blues Traveler song. Great song.
Sure. One of my faves to throw on. Muppet Treasure Island is another one that I've mentioned over the years on this show, especially that people think is a joke. It's not. It's not. Silly, happy shit that'll get you that one endorphin. I know for a lot of people listening, it's like they go watch an episode of The Office or Friends or Parks and Rec. Like those feel-good, funny, 20-minute comedies that can give you a little something right before you go to bed.
Ted Lasso.
That's a good example. Ted Lasso. It's a feel-good. You know you're coming out of Ted Lasso warm.
The Good Place is another example of that.
Boom.
I've been watching recently. I've been on a big Studio Ghibli kick, which is a big animation studio in Japan. It's the biggest animation studio in Japan. One of the biggest animation.
Are you getting
studios.
paid by Studio Ghibli yet?
No, I'm on my way there. I've been talking to Hayo a couple times recently. We're getting there. But
fucking Gen Z kids love Studio Ghibli, man.
It's because of this exact reason you're saying. The way Hayao Miyazaki makes movies, he stated multiple times, he makes them for the enjoyment, like the soul's enjoyment for those who are lost, basically. Like that's why he makes his movies the way that he does.
Cool mission.
And he makes him with such an idealistic view of the world that sometimes it's really nice to get lost in his universe.
Oh, it's this guy's fault that you think that the world can be perfect.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And one that I've been watching recently, and I watched a video essay on this recently on YouTube as well, that brought up a really interesting hypothetical about, we always talk about what our favorite movie is, right? And it's really hard to sum up what our favorite movie is on the spot, because when somebody asks you that, they're basically asking you to culminate your entire artistic direction and give them something that in your mind is going to impress them, but not fall too short. What does it say about you? If I tell them a musical, what does that say about me? If I tell them a romance, does that say I'm lonely? And so the video essay presents the hypothetical of what if we reframe that question to what is your favorite movie right now?
Right now?
Right now, yeah.
That's a much better question. What's your favorite movie of all time is not an answerable question.
Exactly. Yeah. And my favorite movie right now is Howl's Moving Castle. And Howl's Moving Castle, it's a love story, and it's one of Miyazaki's darkest movies in thematically. It talks about war, and it talks about death, and it talks about freedom and idealism in the face of basically immeasurable obstacles. And how do you deal with that when you see the world and you see what it could be, but everything, all the powers that be in the world are trying to keep you from that? And the reason it's my favorite movie right now is the movie, I won't spoil it, but the movie ends in such an uplifting and encouraging way. in where love does solve the issues in the movie. Love does solve the war at hand. Love does solve the things that in real life love doesn't normally solve because these powers that be are too large for us to impact. So right now, my favorite movie is Howl's Moving Castle because I kind of need it to be my favorite movie
saying
right
love
now.
doesn't win in real life.
Most of the time, unfortunately.
Disagree.
But it's Howl's right now because it gives. I walk away from that feeling good, and it's nice to just get lost in the universe for 2 hours, to live in the universe that is Howl's Moving Castle, and to walk out of that feeling better about myself with a smile on my face. You know,
Jared, if you say Guy Fieri,
Well, he actually doesn't have any movie credits yet.
it doesn't have to be a movie. It can be a TV show.
I'll say this. As a lot of people know about me, I don't watch a lot of scripted stuff. I prefer a nice documentary.
Why can't I just get a normal co-host that doesn't say things like that?
I don't know. It seems like a you problem. But
fucking,
for me,
fucking Micah with the French noir. You don't watch. What did you just say?
I prefer a nice documentary to scripted, like,
And Coles is watching fucking
anime.
yeah.
I think you
hentai porn.
guys give way too much shit on Studio Ghibli or Ghibli. I still don't know which one it is. I'll be honest. But
Well,
I
that
think
might
you
be part
guys.
of the
It's
problem.
Geely with Ben Affleck.
Gilly.
Exactly. But you guys would love literally every single one of their fucking movies. You guys just don't. I need you guys to give them a chance. Chance
Jared,
is all
what do
I
you
ask.
what do you do with
I
that?
put on a nice documentary. Even if it's a depressing one about murder, for some reason, learning about the world around me is comforting to me. Because, for example, let's say I put on an episode of The Office, right? Like, number one, I've seen every episode so many times it's not that entertaining to me anymore.
Sure.
But number two, I understand why some people go mindless happiness, right?
Okay.
But for me, I find enjoyment in like not wasting. Now, I'm not saying it's a waste of time, but like not using time that could be spent learning about the world around me, just spending it doing mindless stuff. Like for me, how my brain operates, I like always learning about stuff. So when it can be done in the form of entertainment and learning, like a nice documentary,
Yeah.
I literally only watch documentaries, including a good example of this, Chris. My brother showed me this, and then Chris and I spoke about it in the studio later that day. Chris's phone heard us talking about it and served it to him.
Yep.
Summoning salt videos on YouTube.
Yeah, I will say, like, YouTube video essays from passionate creators are a great way to bring enjoyment because.
What is summoning salt? Hold
Okay.
on.
Okay, yeah.
So
You go
Summoning
through
Salt-
that first.
I and Chris and my brother, none of us have ever in our lives cared about video game speedrunning.
Nope, I've
Okay?
never even played like more than 10 minutes on an N64.
We're
Video
talking
game
Mario. We're
speedrunning
talking.
is where you play a video game, for the unaware, and you go through that game as quickly as possible. It's not about enjoyment. It's
about setting a
speed.
record.
It's about setting a literal speed record for start to finish. How fast can you beat the game? And a lot of people do it with the old school Marios and stuff.
The most famous ones are a lot of the Mario universe. So like the old
Yep.
Mario games, Mario, Super Mario Brothers, Mario Kart, all across all iterations. And mostly, like you said, Ross, it's on older consoles. I've never cared about this before. I've seen it, like highlights of it before. I'm like, oh, interesting, whatever. Never cared. This guy, Summoning Salt, does documentaries.
Summoning Salt is his
Summoning Salt
name?
is his name on YouTube.
Okay.
He's
Yes.
right around 1 million subscribers.
Yep.
Okay.
He does these documentaries about the history of world records for games, okay? I just watched one about this. It was pretty crazy. So in Mario Kart 64,
Yep.
there are 32 world records you can hold. It is the 3-lap time for every single course.
Good lord.
And it is the 1-lap time for every course. The difference being the 1-lap time is time trial, so you get mushrooms to use, and the 3-lap you don't.
Speaking of random mindless shit that doesn't actually accomplish anything.
But I'm learning about the world around me. This is a legitimate thing I'm learning
fair
about.
enough.
So anyway,
I'm just saying their action
that
could be argued.
One of the recent ones I watched was about how this one guy was trying to get all 32 world records, but all the other speedrunners were teaming up because they part of the anti-1000 alliance, like 1,000 batting average, like having every single record.
Yeah.
They all teamed up to try to stop him, and you need to watch it to find out. Does this guy Matthias
Get all 32.
Matthias?
I
what's
don't
his name?
remember the-
something like
Matthias something, yeah.
whatever.
The thing you hit on
Rustemeyer,
earlier.
Matthias Rustemeyer.
The thing you hit on earlier that I think resonates with a lot more people than maybe a lot of us realize. And first of all, I would hope that this podcast serves for some of y'all as the thing we're talking about here. But also, one of my favorite shows ever, My Favorite Murder, one of the podcasts that got me into podcasting, is this for a lot of people. And it's about serial killers and murder. But a lot of those people, and for the two women who host the show, they speak on it in one of their original episodes, like, it makes them feel better to hear these things and know these things and be more informed. They don't feel so in the dark, so it ends up being a positive, uplifting experience for them, where this is a fear they have of being murdered that they are addressing and facing every time they do an episode. So it ends up being this, like, you wouldn't think a show about all the different serial killers would be positive, but it ends up being this community of positivity with all, especially women who are dealing with something they're afraid of. And sometimes with Jared, as it was for you, the information that you get out of something like that can be very worth it. We don't have any more time to discuss anything today, so that will do it for today's show. But before you head out to take on the world, this time for some very important announcements. First and foremost, you've been saddled with 3 legal obligations as a result of having listened to this entire podcast, the first of which, rate and review. Then number 2, share the show with one person, a friend, a family member, a coworker, a neighbor, any one individual you can think of that might like the Ross Bolen podcast. Share the show with them this week. And then your third and final legal obligation is to support our sponsors who support us and keep us in business. This week, you've got Felix Gray, felixgrayglasses.com/RBP. You've got Flora CBD. Go to gotflora.com. Use the code RBP for 20% off. And then, of course, you've got MyBookie.ag. Use the code RBP when you sign up for that deposit bonus. Stipulations apply. We are on social media. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. Instagram at The Ross Bolen Podcast. Twitter at Ross Bolen Pod. Facebook.com/Ross Bolen Podcast. Speaking of which, we're going to issue a challenge to our listeners. The Self-Care Challenge. Each month, we're going to do one. February, we talked about pedicures. We've gotten a few pictures of y'all who did pedicures as a way of giving yourself a new self-care experience, especially dudes who have never done pedicures before. So if you get a pedicure in this next several days, or you did one already this month and you took a picture or whatever, put it up on your Instagram story, tag at the Ross Bolen Podcast. Every month we're going to do this with a focus on self-care, and we're going to pick a person at the end of the month, our favorite post that tagged us on Instagram stories, to give a $500 spa package to, in whatever city you're in. We'll determine which spa we're going to pick based on where you are. But $500 value spa package each month, just as a way to motivate our audience to not only go and do some self-care and potentially win a prize in exchange, but to continue fulfilling your legal obligations of sharing the show with other people by tagging at the Ross Bolen Podcast in your Instagram story, so that we then see it and can share it on our story as well. So make sure you do that for an opportunity at a little self-care celebration prize package. It's a self-care challenge. Go get a fucking pedicure, take a picture of your feet. Look, it's all about getting more feet pictures for the foot fetish community.
I'm starting to see the actual reasons for this
challenge. Yeah, you see the wheels
Ross.
turning. You see the wheels turning.
Talking about foot fetishes, you're already thinking about it in your mind. You're just trying to get away to get the gang
Ross
out
is
there.
playing chess. We're playing.
It's called the long con, baby. Everybody else is playing checkers.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. I'm Ross Bolen. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at WRBOLEN. I'm also live on Twitch at twitch.tv/BOSSROLEN, Boss Rollin', a few times a week. So be sure to tune in and check me out whenever I'm playing video games on there, oftentimes with these two gentlemen as well. Christopher, where can everybody follow you on social media?
You can find me on Instagram at ChrisSC99, and you can find me on Twitter at Q0ULS.
Mr. Borislow, where can we follow you?
At Jared Borislow.
Wow. JAREDBORISLOW, and at Sir J-Bone on Twitch.
Yes, it is.
Well.
And you know what? Big news time. Just kidding.
Follow at Jared Borislow on Twitter for the big news.
It's the official J-Bone Twitter account.
That will inevitably come from the official J-Bone Twitter account, updating everyone on the biggest news in the J-Bone world. Tag us in your Instagram stories. Keep them coming. Anything y'all do related to RBP, anything you wanted to see, put up a story on Instagram, tag us in it. We will share it on our Instagram at the Ross Bolen Podcast. Check out Bolen Media's television and film podcast, Oysters, Clams, and Cockles, available wherever you listen to RBP. If you love TV and movies, you will love OCC. That will do it for RBP 375. Produced by Mike Moody Garcia of Permanent Record Studios in Austin, Texas. We will be back on Wednesday, right here, for another episode on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on YouTube, and then, of course, Friday on patreon.com/Ross Bolen Podcast. You're actually getting a couple of those this week to make up for last week and the week before that. So tune in on patreon.com/Ross Bolen Podcast, and thank you for bearing with us as we've gotten our situation back together after the Great Texas Freeze, which you can hear all about on episode 374, and you should go do that now. Remember, you are not alone. Podmen get paid. Respect Mr. Park. Strength and honor. Gang, gang, gang. Christopher.
Peace be with you.
And also with you.
J-Bone.